Hi everyone, welcome to Kaya's Vanity. Please forgive how I look today. My hair is not done. Today I'm just going to talk about racism. I just wanted to get a few things off my chest of what I experienced, and racism obviously is still out there today, and people still feel as if it's okay to hate people because of their culture, their skin color, their whatever the case may be. And racism obviously is taught, from generation to generation, and from people to people, and from whatever to whatever. Especially, I've learned through different cultures who haven't really had that experience with Black people. They've been taught from other different cultures of what to expect or what Black people are like. And it's not, definitely not a good way to think about us. You know what I'm saying? I had this history teacher, his name was Mr. Rodriguez. And he basically one time he was talking about Black girls. And he said how most Black girls don't have a father figure in their lives. He said this in front of a huge class. There was only 2 Black girls in the classroom, and everyone else was Spanish. Me, being a Black girl and having a father, growing up with a father in my life, I didn't like what he said. And I felt like there was no reason to say what he said, because his job was to teach about history. And he never taught Black history. So the fact that he would just come out and say that, I was like, there was no room for him to say that, So yeah. And then he went on to say this. He said, back then, if you were the color of a brown paper bag and lighter, it was good. You're good. You're all right. But anything darker than a brown paper bag, you're too dark, you're too Black, you're not good enough, you're not nothing, is what he said. And the way that he said it, he was smiling. And the way that he said it, it was like he was teaching us that that's what it is today and that's the right thing. He never said, oh, racism is wrong, don't treat each other like that. It was like, okay, this is what it was back then, and this is what it still is now, and it's okay. That's what he was saying. So me being a Black woman, regardless of the shade of my skin, I took offense to what he said. And then there was the other Black girl that was in our class. She was really dark skinned. So I looked at her, and I could tell the facial expression on her face that she didn't like what he said. And then ever since then, I had no respect for this man. I didn't like him at all. Okay. So then we had a history project coming up. And for the history project, he gave each of us a historic figure. And we basically had to prepare a presentation and talk about this figure in front of the class. He gave everyone their figures, whatever, and he gave me Marcus Garvey. Backstory to this, before I even talk about the Marcus Garvey project, right? He basically was talking about, when we first got to his class, he made us all stand up, tell our race, our hobby, our age, what we like to do, etc., right? And then before the Black people went up to say anything, he said this: there is no such thing as being Black. It's what he said. You are African American. It's what he said. Now, for him, a non-Black person, to say that to me, I mean, yes, he has Black in his skin because he is Spanish. He was Cuban, and he was like a caramel complexion. He did not have white skin. So, but because he believed in the brown paper bag method, I guess he thought he was white. I don't know. Anyway, for me, I felt like for you to teach us about racism and think that it's okay, racism is okay, And for you to tell me, a black woman, who the fuck I am. Okay, there's no country in America called African America. I'm fucking black. Whoever the fuck I say I am is what I am. You are not going to tell me who the fuck I am. And that's how I felt at that time. So when he said, oh, there's no such thing as black, you're African American, and then he had me stand up, I stood my ass up and I said, my name is Kaya Brown and I'm black. And obviously you can tell my skin color, bitch, I'm black. And you ain't going to tell me. I looked at him and I gave him that look like, you're not going to tell me what the fuck to say. You're not going to tell me who the fuck I am. And you're not going to fucking tell me what the fuck to say who I am. Because you're not who I am. You're not me. And I'm going to tell these people who the fuck I am. Not you. You're not going to tell me what to say. And that's just exactly how I felt. All right, so back to the Marcus Garvey story. Sorry, I'm going flip-floppy. So he gave me Marcus Garvey because of how I stood up and said I'm black. He was like, okay, let me give her Marcus Garvey. Okay. So I did a video on Marcus Garvey. Honestly, I wasn't really into the project as much because I didn't like him and I didn't like what he was about. So I wasn't really, me being a black woman and being, hey, yes, I got Marcus Garvey now, can tell people about him and what he did for our people and blah, blah, blah. I felt like they already had an idea in their heads about black people because of him and probably because of other people. So why the fuck should I be so into this project and tell you guys about a black figure when you guys really honestly don't give a fuck and you already have this negative perception of what the fuck black people are? So with that being said, I made a little video. I put it on YouTube. And it was just, it had a song about Marcus Garvey in the background. It was some pictures put up about him. It told where he was born, where he was from, what he did. And that was basically it. It just had some little history things in it. And that was really it. And I guess, he gave me a C in the project because I didn't talk. And I really didn't want to. He gave me a C. The video deserved like an A, but, he gave me a C because I didn't talk and the whole reason of the project for us to talk. But honestly, I just didn't want to talk because I already had this perception of him and I was like, oh, he's disgusting. And also, he taught us a lot about, negative terms to use like blotto and he just I don't know what his deal was. But he really wasn't a good teacher. And he taught us, a little bit about slaves. And I'm like, okay, he's talking about slaves, but he didn't say, anything like what a black person should hear. He was just talking about slaves like, okay, these are what black people is. And they were slaves. And that was really it. Okay, so this video is going a little too long. But I'm going to tell you another story about... I'm going to tell you guys another story. Okay, so I dated a white man, and not only did I date a white man, but I dated a man way older than me. Okay, he had 3 kids, he had an ex-wife, and we met each other at difficult times in our lives. And he was a narcissist. He was definitely a narcissist. He gave this beautiful presentation of what I thought he was. But then, of course, I started to see his true colors. Anyway, I'm not going to really get into that, but there were times our relationship became extremely toxic. And there was one time where he spit in my face and called me the N-word. Okay? And when I say I fucked his ass up, because I don't play that shit, I fucked his ass up like I was one of our fucking ancestors back in Martin Luther King days, back in the fucking segregation days. Okay, I definitely did. I fucked him up. Because at the end of the day, I don't play that shit. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't even say that word. I don't even like black people to say that word, But that was besides the point, He became toxic and abusive first. Our first encounter, he dragged me. Sorry. He dragged me across glass. He took my body and he fucking... Well, first I think he pushed me to the ground. I think he hit me. And then he dragged my body around glass. Purposely dragged my body. Because some glass broke on the floor. And he fucking dragged my body against glass. I cut my thigh. I'm bleeding and shit. It was crazy. But there are multiple times where I cut him off completely. And he would call my phone nonstop. Talk about a stalker. This man called my phone every second for hours. And he left terrible voicemails, calling me the N-word, calling me a black bitch, calling me all these names. And in my head, I'm like, I wish he was saying this shit in my face because he would have got fucked up. Okay? Y'all, let me calm down because I'm being ghetto. But yes, that's what I was thinking in my head. But I've had an experience with him where he was being abusive. And I called the cops on him. And the cops came. And I was telling the cops what happened. They didn't do anything to him. And you can tell that these cops, like, you know when a cop is racist. You know when someone is racist. When a white person is looking at you. And they're just like, their whole demeanor is like, oh, I don't like you. Their face is just looking nasty, looking at you like you're nothing. And like they're better than you. They just have this whole persona to them. So he was definitely looking at me like that. And then he put me in handcuffs without even telling me why I was being arrested. He had no charges against me. He put me in handcuffs. He went and checked my purse without my consent. He checked my purse. He was looking through my little tampon box. I'm like, do you need a tampon or something? Like, what are you doing? But he looked through my little tampon box. He was going through my bag, and I kid you not, he found a little baggie like this. It was a little tiny pebble of weed in it, and around that time, weed was not legal. It was a little tiny little peb of weed, and it wasn't mine. It was my ex, well, my boyfriend at the time, the racist, and I wasn't going to snitch on him, but I went to jail. I went to jail that night. I certainly did. And I was upset. I was so upset because at the end of the day, I called you guys for help because I was being abused by a man. But instead you take me, put me in handcuffs, and go through my belongings and did nothing to him. And I felt so, at that point, I was like, wow, Another story. Okay. So this is when I was with another man in my life. And I was in the apartment. I was by myself. I had just got out the shower. I had a towel wrapped around my body. And I heard this banging at the door. Okay. I goes to the door. And they're cops. And so I opened the door because, I don't know any better. I'm like, okay, yes, may I help you? And they're like showing me this picture of the guy that used to live in my apartment and telling me that they're looking for this guy. And I'm like, I never seen that guy in my life. I don't know who he is. He's not here. So they're like, well, can we come in and check? And I'm like, well, he's not here. I mean, you guys really need to do that. I don't know this man. They didn't believe me. So I'm like, he's not in here. And I'm like this, and it's standing in a doorway with the door closed, but I'm standing in a doorway of, like, the door was cracked, and I'm standing in a doorway. So I goes and I open the door, and I'm like, he's not here. He's not in here. And they come rushing in when I did that. So they're rushing in my apartment. They searched my entire apartment. They have no search warrant. They searched my entire apartment while I'm sitting there in a towel, not dressed. And they find nothing. So then they start to question me. They're like, where's your boyfriend? I'm like, he's not my boyfriend. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know this man. So they keep questioning me, and they're being really nasty. They have that same nasty demeanor on them, looking at me like I'm nothing and they're something. And at this point, I'm shaking and I'm scared. So I get my phone out and I start recording them. And they're like, oh, you're not allowed to record. I'm like, this is my apartment. And I'm telling you guys, he's not here. I'm telling you guys, I don't know this person. And I need you guys to leave my apartment. And they're just not listening to me. They're still looking around. They're still questioning me. And until I get my boyfriend on the phone that I was with at the time, and he's talking to them. That's when they finally believe that the guy that they're looking for is not my boyfriend, and they finally leave. But anyway, guys, that's really all I had to talk about today. Thank you for watching Kaya's Vanity. I hope you will be here to watch my next video. Oh, oh, oh.